So yeah, here we are. We are back. Another week, new week starting. You always got to attack Monday hard. So I hope everybody's got their Monday together. And we are here now with episode 2 of the reentry journey. I'm your host, Kardell Sims. And who I have today, man, you got to hear this story. I mean, I heard the story and I was just like, man, what? And it was going on and it was piling on. And I was like, I can't believe what that happened. And it was just a lot of things. And so we're not even going to waste time with it. We're going to get right into it. My guest today is Marissa Matthews. I'm so happy that she came on. And, what I'm going to try to do is have 1 week male, 1 week female. And there's no other way to start this off with this story here. So, Marissa, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Marissa Matthews. I'm currently an Oregon resident, and I'm a fallen.
Fallen felon. So you say fallen felon. Can you explain to the people that's tuning in, that's going to be tuning in to see this video later on and this podcast later on, exactly what is a fallen felon?
So I categorize myself as a fallen felon because I not what a felon is categorized. I am somebody that beat my recidivism. I am somebody that built a business from literally $300 into a high six-figure business, even through COVID.
All right. So what you say, you're not what someone will, you didn't fall under the stigma of what of a felon is. What is that stigma? Like what's that stigma that that people tried to put on you?
So how American society is, when somebody has been to jail or prison, they are associated as tough, mean, violent, big. And I'm not sure what you see when you see me. Not somebody that has come out and turned to drugs and helped numb my pain. I took my circumstance and was not going to be defined by my inmate number, even though the world will come out and they will throw that out the gate at you. You are not expected to do better than what they think that you're supposed to do. You are not supposed to be better than they are. And I'm making 3 times the amount that prison guard that was locking me up was making.
Right. And so we don't really want to dwell a lot on what we did to get locked up, but we do like to share our stories a little bit, and so people can see like the highs, the lows, and how did you bounce back from the situations that you was in. Because talking with you the other day and hearing your stories, like I was just like, wow, and the average person really wouldn't be able to bounce back, not just from the things that occur, but the mental wear down that you went through to be able to find it in themselves to raise up out of that and run into another obstacle and conquer that obstacle and still keep pushing. So can you kind of just go into your story just a little bit? Now, you don't have to go all the way into it, but just so the people that's watching can hear exactly what you had to face.
So I used to work in the justice system, and that was part of my crime, things that were happening within my office, and we could base on that a lot later. But when I went into that system, because I was part of the criminal justice system, I worked on that side with lawyers and guards and judges and stuff like that. I was placed in a protective custody unit within my facility, and I was basically that red badge. I was that person that could work through security, they thought, because I knew the ins and outs of it. And in that process, I was harmed. I was physically harmed by a few prison guards and me and a bunch of other women. And so I saw the sinisterness of both the judicial system and how corrupt it was, and the politics of the prison system, right? Because we all know that there are politics within the prison system.
Oh, yes.
And I had to learn and how to balance that medium. There were that hated me because they thought that I was getting special treatment when I really wasn't. I was actually being harmed. And then when word got out that I was being harmed and I was in investigative status, and I say that with air quotes all the time because that's what it was, because it was nothing but glorified SAG. Let's just be honest. So I had my family who didn't believe me because like if I was locked up, well then I had to have done something wrong. And if I was locked up being locked up, then I had to have done something wrong. So there was no faith. There was no cheerleading system coming out. There wasn't anybody that was going to be there to help me. As a matter of fact, like I love my mother and my father, but they are white collar, and coming out, I couldn't even go to their house because what would they say to their neighbors if there was a parole agent in their car? I mean, in their car, in their driveway. And I just was baffled. So I went to my aunt's house, who at the time my uncle was extremely like OCD. He had certain things for certain places. And I remember putting my box of belongings that I had just brought out of prison, put it on the floor. And he's like, that's not where that goes. I mean, not even hi, hug me, welcome home. I didn't get that homecoming. I didn't even get a party. I mean, I should have had streamers at least, I thought, but that wasn't even going to happen either. So I looked at my aunt and I said, I will be in my own place within 90 days. And I was too determined not to fail. So I started just with a very small amount of money in my pocket, and I started a company called Bellies Up because I saw behind the gate that I was having a very hard time trying to find a job even before I got out. Like I started reaching out to resources that I knew, and I was having the door slammed in my face. So my thought process was, I'm going to have to do this myself, and I'm going to have to prove the world wrong. And the only way to do that was to start my own business. I had the mindset to do so. And I knew that there was a lot of talent behind the gate. So I figured if people were coming out of prison and I could hire them and employ them because based on their talent, which was a lot of it was art, right? So if I company where women's torsos were they were casted and the artist would then draw on them, that became a work of art. So once we copyrighted it, it became an actual work of art. And I started that business, but see, there's sinisterness out in the world when it comes to helping beat your own recidivism. And there are people that don't want you to succeed. Remember, I said that in the beginning. And so I had a talker, and she did not want to see me succeed. Her name is Susan Regan, and she started a domestic violence angels page, but only as a ruse or a guise to basically stalk me through the internet. Now, I have not laid eyes on this woman in 20 years. 20 years, not spoken 2 words to her, but she keeps very close tabs on me. She even went to this extent of creating profiles of other people to act like they were victims of mine. So if you ever like read up on me on this site, it makes it look like I have all these victims and I'm this horrible person. And so anytime like I would have Facebook or interaction, and people don't tell you this coming out of prison with the way technology is today, is that there are those people that don't want you to succeed, and they will do everything they can to make sure you come down, whether that's assassinating your character, destroying your business in the meantime. She had called code enforcement on me. She had called the health department and saying I was not using medical grade strips on my mom's, just anything she could to just hinder me in that. And it got to the point where it started to wear my spirit down, and it shook my faith in what people could actually do. And I'm a very strong person. Well, then what happened is I got cancer before I left Chicago. And I was in the midst of this storm with this woman, hiring lawyers. And I say this because I was able to do that with the business that I grew. So I was turning money around to just hire lawyers because technology and the laws have not caught up with each other. So at that point, for me, and having to combat this issue, I felt like I was just paying somebody to try to protect me and somebody else from slander, which she was creating was in her mind was freedom of speech. And so I got really sick, and I had to put everything on the back burner. I had to fold my business, and I felt defeated. I felt like I am everything that they said I was going to be, and that was a failure, right? So
Right.
somehow I was going to turn this around. And I remember laying in a hospital bed saying, God, like I remember my doctor coming in, and I may get emotional through all of this because it's an emotional process for us, right? So I was helping inmates as much as I could. I was corresponding with them. I actually helped art contests to see who would be like the next person to do the next belly coming out. And so inmates were writing me, and a couple of them were men that were sex offenders, and not even knowing their story. My grandmother had worked for me, and she was opening the mail that was coming in to my office. And instead of giving it to me, she gave it to my ex-husband. So all they did, what they do? They did a Google search on this person, right? Oh my God, he's a sex offender. He had all these charges, but not thinking that this was somebody that was 17 years old, that was in a statutory rape case, that was in a state where it was required mandatory sentencing. So it didn't matter, right? So now,
Right.
like 25 years just because of that, and not even understanding the case. And I was sinister. So then what they did was they took my kids away from me, like completely, because I was a danger to them just because I was corresponding with people that were in prison. It didn't matter that they didn't meet them. One of the letters was a gentleman that like drew a picture for my kids and said, tell them I said hi. Even though I didn't do that, the letter implied that they were somehow corresponding with my children. And that hurt my spirit even more, because all I was doing was trying to help those that were in the same place that I was. And I remember my mom saying, you're done with your sentence. You're past that. You're over that. I'm like, but I'm not. Like, I am no different than they are. And there wasn't, even for me being, a Caucasian woman, there was no privilege there. When you commit a felony, or you are charged with a felony and convicted of it, you are now signed up for a life sentence. Despite what anybody tells you, you are in a life sentence, and it is a fight for your security. It is a fight for your life. And that means that you have to change your ways, your purpose, your places, your things, the people that you hung around with. And they will judge a book by its cover the minute you walk out that gate. So when people say, hey, I have to spend 17 years in prison, and I have to worry about getting back to that. Like, I need to catch up on time. You put it together. That's what the America expects you to have. They don't want your excuses. They don't need time. Like, you're not taking that year off of college. They expect it. So when I got cancer, not only was I going in the midst of all of this, and my kids were now taken away because I was a danger to them, I didn't have the energy to fight. Right.
Right.
I remember laying in my bed, and somebody had told me about cannabis oil in Oregon. And I was like, okay, so I either go to Dubai and eat mushrooms, or I go to Oregon and hope that there's, hope in cannabis oil. So that's what I did. I made my way to Oregon, despite I didn't tell anybody, because everybody would have told me it wasn't good for me. I shouldn't say that. That's not truth. I told a couple of people, and the people that I did tell within my family unit, they were, so I didn't tell anybody else. My niece helped me like pack up everything within 10 days of my house. And we were and we were on our way to Oregon. So if you ever look at my Facebook page, I told you there's a side-by-side picture. Anybody can look under Marissa Matthews. You'll see the picture of me in the hospital the day I arrived in Oregon, and the picture of me 3 months later, what I looked like to the day I should have been dead. So cannabis oil worked for me. And then I was on a mission, right? Now I know that this worked. I know I can do a business. I had already invested in property. So I bought property, 26 acres in Dorena, Oregon, and I was going to turn this into a medical marijuana farm. And I was going to give medicine to patients for free, because if it helped me, it would help others. And the more people that was given to free, then they would have to be able to document it, right? And so then it would,
Right.
more states would start approving it. Well, that my little stalker decided that she was going to send my mugshot and her page to multiple people on my Facebook, including those within the cannabis community. Well, then she also thought I was wanted by the FBI, which was not truth. And so you don't tell people in the cannabis community that somebody's wanted by the FBI, because what do they think? Like, somehow you're here to like flip something. So the people that were my farmers on this plan decided that they were going to basically destroy everything that was mine in the property, throwing it into one big pile, including a 70-inch TV. It was just destroying it, just because they believed what they were reading about me, even though it wasn't truth. And then the other thing was, why didn't you tell me the details of your crime? So it didn't matter that I told you that I had been to prison at some point in time, or if I had been to jail. What it mattered was I had to tell you the details of my crime.
Why do you think that they was so interested into the details of your crime?
Because I didn't look like a person that came out of prison. So they thought based on that, and I was this kind person. And then there's this person on the internet saying, well, she's a con artist. Well, my crime had nothing to do with being a con artist, but all of a sudden I became one based on her perception of me over 20 years and not even talking to me, and then her creating, and I never fought it. Like I never defended myself until the last 2 years before I left Illinois. And then I started, and then she would delete the comments, and I had no defense to it. So I vowed that day when I was in that hospital and I was leaving before I left for Oregon, that I was going to somehow change the way that people came out of prison. There are lots of organizations that are trying to change what is going on in prison because there does need to be more education. There does need to be more programs to help people transition into a better place in their life, instead of letting them sit idle and say, well, this is your basic education and your basic needs. And then you have the concept of people like my parents, like my mom said the other day, well, people in jail and prison have, I mean, everything's fine for them. They have 3 square meals a day. They have a roof over their head. You know, they have a bed to sleep on. And I'm like, if only you really, and I became defensive, and she's like, it's a joke. And I'm like, but it's not.
Right.
Bare minimum. And if you're having a heart attack, they'll say, here, take a Sudafed or an aspirin and you're good. And most people die because they don't get to go outside and see it. You know, you're on a waiting list all the time. And now we're dealing with mental health issues. And now we have now criminalized mental health. People that can't get medicine, people that can't have resources out, because the waiting list, even for any state, is so long that what do? They come out, they're great. And if they can't have access to their medicines, what are they going to do? They're going to act out. And what happens when people act out? People call the police. And now we're back in the system again.
Yeah, we right back, right? Yeah, it's exactly how it goes too.
Because that's what it is. And people don't have patience for people with mental illness. They don't see patience with people that require treatment long-term for drugs and alcohol abuse, which people are on the fence whether it is a disease or not a disease. And we're not here to debate that, because we know that it's still part of the problem, and that's not even be a debated issue. But even me being, like I told you, a Caucasian female, there was no privilege in that. I wear a permanent P on my chest. So now I'm in Oregon trying to do what I can, and now the entire cannabis community sees me as this horrible person, right? And my cancer came back with a vengeance.
Wow.
So I realized at this point that I was still educating myself on marijuana, and that strain and everything. And my strain that was originally helping me really wasn't helping me. And so what we thought was Siashu, which was a strain that was helping me, really wasn't, because when we got it through people that helped us find the actual strain, it wasn't helping. And so my partner and I, Joe, decided, well, our doctor said, if you have a biological child, you have an 83% cure rate. And I was like, Joe, I banked eggs, like we can do this. And he's like, yeah. So what we went through the whole IVF process and stuff. And then 2 weeks after my embryo transfer, Joe was killed in a truck accident in Sweet Home, Oregon. So my world, as I knew it, and my only security was that man, and my love of my life was gone. And now I have a baby coming, and I'm still going to take on this cancer like no one's business.
So this is crazy. You catch the case, you go to prison. While in prison, you go through some things, a lot of harm while in prison. You do your time, you get out of prison. You trying to build your life. You determined to build your life back up, because you know people's not going to be, the world's expecting you to get out here and make something happen. So you get out here, you're trying to make something happen, you get a stalker. Stalker is tearing down your business, tore down one business that you came out successfully doing, just that one. So you like, oh man, then you get cancer. You taking hit after hit. So you come out to Oregon, you get another business running successfully. The same stalker basically crashes this business. Cancers come back. You and your husband gonna have a baby, he dies. I mean, this is lost. What did it take for you not to give up at this point?
So I made a promise to Joe that no matter whatever happened between him and I, even if we didn't stay together, because relationships don't last forever anymore. It doesn't though I felt like this person was my soulmate, I made a promise to him when I was standing by his casket that I would make beating 70% happen. And so beating 70% was born. And that's because the recidivism rate in the United States is 77%. And that is atrocious and high. And so I made a vow that I was going to hire felons for every job that I did. So I went in, I got out of the cannabis community and I ventured into something that I was actually doing while I was in college. I was twisting balloon animals and I was doing things to help, like with balloons on the side. And I said, I'm just going to start this business. It was something that I knew how to do. It was party and event planning. And at that point, my work would speak for itself. And that's what's kind of happened. Like even the stalker attacked it still through, like, I can't go on Google and have Google review because she will attack it with false stuff. And so I had to put my merit out there, and that was my jobs and my work. So people got to see it. So my Facebook page, which is Balloons by Twisted Sisters, you can see the actual work that I'm doing. It's not fake. There's nobody scamming anybody because I'm doing the work for somebody, and my talent speaks for itself. And so then I started writing a book because I figured, if I start mentoring people and I tell them, if you can write a rap, you can write a book. If you can put one foot in front of the other and you have the mindset that you have, like, this is my talent, whatever your talent is if it is, you can write music, you can write a book, you can write an essay that will get you the grants that you need. If you are an artist, you can do tattooing. I want to channel those things with people to tell them that I will be your biggest cheerleader. I will help you beat that recidivism, and I will help you make a. See, I came out here to Oregon, and I built a life out here that I could hang my hat on. I knew in order to get away from that cesspool, that stalker that's back there in Chicago, that stuff, I needed to remove myself and go as far away from the toxicity that I was sitting in to better my station in life. And so once I got better and the stem cell replacement started working, I was too determined not to fail. And I knew that if I grew my business to a certain point, and once I made a goal of making $200,000 a year, I vowed that depending on the job, if the job was under 300, I would put, I had to put taxes away, but then I would put $5 away into a pot. And if the job was over $300 to $1,000, I would put $10 to $25 in a pot. So once I reached $1,000, that I called my Beating 70% project, I would then, whoever I was corresponding with, or I would reach out to somebody I knew that was through pen pals or that I knew that were leaving jail or prison, and I would give them that seed money, $1,000, to start their own business. Now they would have to show me a business plan. They would have to convince me that this is what they were going to do when they would follow up, because $1,000 to somebody coming out of prison is a lot of money. It may not seem like a lot to us right now.
Yeah, I've been just sitting here thinking, man, you was giving 1,000. People probably was hitting you up left and right, boy. She's giving them 1,000. She's giving 1,000.
Oh, but I mean, when there were people that were like that, but I'm like, you have to work for this. It's not just something that's handed for free, because then they won't do what they need to do with it if it's just handed to them. Coming out, especially to Oregon, it was not an equal housing opportunity. And just like there is not like equal employment opportunities in certain places. You have a felony and you have to divulge that on that. Once you check that box, it doesn't matter how forthcoming you are. It doesn't matter that you look great or that you look like somebody that's trustworthy. Once they see that, there's no chance. And how many rejections did I get for every time I had to pay $35 to just have a background check so that I can move into a place? That $35 meant a lot to me coming out of prison. It meant the world to me. And having to pay 6 or 7 of those a week to just see if I can get housing, that adds up very quickly. And then you still feel defeated because somewhere in the back of your head, somebody's going to give you a rejection. So you may find somebody that will give you that chance out the gate, but if you don't have the mindset and the skills to keep you there, you're going to relapse yourself. And I don't mean that by drugs or alcohol. I'm talking back into your recidivism. And you don't want to, because people feel like they have to catch up. Then they got to hang with the people that they knew before. And now it's all about who you know. And now you're caught up in some shit that you don't need to be caught up in. And everybody's like, oh, I'll focus on that later. I told you when I first met you that there's a song that that Michael Fenty sings, and it's think big but start small. And that's where we need to help people transition at. You want to go into tattooing because you're an artist. I will tell you how to get your bloodborne pathogens class done. I will set you up with a Facebook page. I'll be your biggest cheerleader. I will help you get all of the tools that you need to start your business. I'll even get you a table, and you can start out of the garage in your house and watch how fast you'll flourish if your mindset is that I will be bigger than anybody ever thought that I would be.
Right. And so you said it's one thing that I did when I got out of prison, that you had to move, you had to leave Chicago and everything there behind and go out and start basically fresh, starting new. That's something I did as well. I left my hometown, moved to another town, and just started something new with the thinking big mentality. I always have a thing. I used to have on my vision board in prison that says smart is thinking big even when you are small. So why is it important for people that's getting out of prison, if they're able to get out of the area or the situations that they possibly was in that got them in the prison in the first place? Why is it important to try to make that move to something new, to something different?
Here's why. One, it will keep your attention and your focus, because where you will ever go, you have to have that faith in yourself that you will succeed. You don't need family to do that. If somebody's telling you that, the devil is a lie. If somebody is telling you that family is everything and I have to stay here, or my girl, or my baby, really? Because I bet you 10 to none, regardless of what you say, you're going to end up back in prison, because you're going to be in those comfort zones and those elements of your environment that you knew before, your product of your environment you're going to return to that got you here to begin with. The same people, the same, and around the block. Jenny goes around the block, right?
Right.
You have to remove yourself. And the only way to prove to the world and to the people back in the Midwest that I can be better than this was to get away and prove it to them myself. Because they're going to stand there and sabotage you. They don't want you to succeed, regardless of what they say. You'll have your couple of cheerleaders, maybe be your mom. But if you said to her, Mom, I'm going to move 2,500 miles away. I'm going to take this leap of faith because I have a feeling it'll be changing my life. And if you have, that's huge faith. Get in the car and drive, because what you will see in another state, what you will see on the other side of a mountain is far more majestic than you are in your box. And that is the truth. Be big. Be bigger than your inmate number.
All right. And so now we're to the point of beating 70%, beating 70. What are the three most important things that you need to do? Not that you have to do it, you need to do in order to start gearing towards the beating the 70%.
Okay. So one, you need a support system. And I mean that by one person to mentor you through this door. Somebody that has been there, not somebody that says, oh, I'll be your support system, but I'm still working a minimum wage job, barely paying my bills and able to, I'm living paycheck to paycheck, but I'm borrowing money so that I can pay, keep the lights on. That is not your support system. That is not. You need somebody that's going to give it to you raw, somebody that is going to tell you what you're doing is not great, but here, take my advice. Somebody that's going to give you 3 options to better your station and to tell you that I will be your biggest cheerleader and I will only watch you succeed. Most importantly, you need that person. You also have to change you. If you're wearing your pants down to fit in past your butt, if only you knew where that came from, you probably wouldn't be doing it. But if you're not going to look the part, to play the part, nobody's going to take you serious to begin with. And if I've had people tell me, but this is who I am, they have to accept me or not. Well, I'm going to tell you right now, they're not going to accept you. You have to change the way you talk. You have to change the way.
I don't know what happened. You went out on me and came back.
And you just have to change those things. It's important. And so I can't press that enough. And that's why I want to be that recidivism life coach for people that are going through the same things that we have gone through. And even though I'm still fighting the stalker, my business speaks for itself because my merit is there. My work ethic is there. And I show up and I show off. And that's what I do. And I will speak truth into that. Now, if somebody comes to me and said, hey, I heard about you on this, what did you hear? Because I can assure you, if you spent 10 minutes with me and broke bread, what you would be thinking of me is completely different than what you are hearing from somebody behind a computer that you've never met.
Right.
People need to take that into consideration. Social media can be your biggest advocate when it comes to finding the resources that you need and to educate yourself on the way the system plays against us. But it can also be your biggest enemy for people like that. Don't want to see you fail. People that come out and have victims, and those victims want to see them basically back in prison, and they will do anything they can to bury you under it. You have to climb above that. It doesn't matter how many times you say you're sorry to them. It doesn't matter how much you justify it. They're out for blood. I don't know what it is. This is the way that America is, and we need to get on the Norway way of doing things, but we're not. And change that mindset, and we soften people's hearts. We have to fight for our position here in this world.
So why is it important for someone that's just getting out of prison? We were just talking about this. Why is it important to have that mentor, to get a mentor that's been through the prison system, that's been through the getting out, facing everything that they had to face, all the obstacles and everything? Why is it important to come out and get that mentor?
It's vital to you, because if you don't, you will fail. Without a doubt, 100%, you will fail. And just like somebody that is being court ordered to go to an AA meeting, you need to find it in yourself to be there and be present and understand the message and why. We are the AA healers to people coming out of prison, right? We are the ones that are saying, I've been where you're at. Look where I am now. That doesn't make me have a snooty nose. That doesn't make me above you. That makes me want to be in the trenches with you and helping you become where I am today. That's why it's important. If you're system and let people break you down, the system is designed to set you up for failure. If you don't have your fines paid by the end of your probational period or by the end of parole, they're putting you back. You know what I'm saying? They're putting you back. If you can't afford the drops that you have to have while on your post supervision release, they're violating you. But you didn't say that I was not going to be able to find a job. You didn't say that I was going to have the deck stacked against me. And you didn't say that my sentence would become a life sentence for me. That's why it's important.
Right. And so I remember you saying when you got out and you wasn't able to get no job, so you took the little money that you had and you started your own business. And it's kind of something that I did as well. I really wasn't seeking no handout or nothing. Like, if I'm going to start something, this is what I'm going to do. Explain to people why that may be the necessary step that you have to do instead of sitting around, waiting for something to happen, instead of making something happen.
Okay, so why it's important in order to be able to take those resources that you have, that mindset that you said, I'm going to put everything into this, because you only have you. And then you have to think of the people you have to support. I have a 2-year-old baby now that I have to support that doesn't have a dad. Do you know what I mean? Like, well, that's not true. He's got a father figure because, I mean, Brent has stepped into that picture, but I have to be able to provide for him. But what happens if something happens between us? You know, like, he's my best friend, but what happens if something happens to him? How am I going to be able to support this child? And that is my heart. And I will never let him. And another reason why is because if you've ever been to jail or prison, my child has a 77% chance of going just because I went. That statistic alone should make you want to beat the system if it truly is your heart. Now, I carried that baby underneath my heart for 9 months. So guess what? I'm going to make sure that none of my children go there. I will never want to have them see what I went through. And you know, based on me meeting with you and having my personal encounter about prison, I would never want my daughter to ever go through that, my son to ever go through that, because if you think it doesn't happen to boys, you're sadly mistaken. And if you hold on for 2 seconds, I wasn't planning on being on my phone. I need to grab a charger very quickly. So
all right.
I'll go grab it real quick.
So yeah, we have Marissa on. For those of you that just tuning in, we have Marissa on. Man, she got some outrageous, wild story of she went to prison, things that had transpired with her while she was in prison. She got out of prison. When she got out of prison, her mother and them wouldn't let her come. She had to go stay with her uncle, and within 90 days, she was out of there, of starting her own business. She built the business up, and she had a stalker. And the stalker put some information out there about her that wasn't true, tore down her business. As soon as it happened, she got cancer. So she's trying to fight all this, and she doesn't have the strength to fight it. So she ends up moving out from Chicago out to Oregon. Once she gets out to Oregon, she starts another business. Same stalker attacks their businesses, her partners and everything. They just went. Everything just went haywire, and cancer came back, and she knocked it out the park. And I mean, so now we on the beating 70%. And as you just mentioned a interesting statistic I don't think people know, and that's the 77% of that. If you've been to prison, your child has a 77% chance of going to prison as well.
77%. We're almost at 80%. If you think of the numbers and the statistics that have been reported, and that's only been what's been reported, can you even imagine one of your littles going through half the things that we went through? They don't tell you in the county jail how scary it's going to be walking in, and how even if you're a male, how you have to, in the male prison system, how you have to fit in with a certain category to be safe. Or they don't tell you that if you're a person of color coming out of prison, that you're going to have 10 times the amount of problems that it would be if somebody coming out that was white didn't, because now your deck is really stacked against you. Even though it's still very hard, it's even harder. And we can't lose sight of that. Like, we cannot lose sight of that.
Right. So what's the future looking like for Marissa? What's the next step for you?
So I have a 5-year goal. I promised Joe when he had died that part of beating 70% was a couple of food trucks, because I know that people coming out of jails and prison can be employed in my food trucks, and it's an easy paycheck for them while they learn their life skills and what we teach them in order to get their own businesses. And then still, every meal that we sell, we will donate $1 into a pot. And for every 1,000 meals sold, we will then also donate $1,000 of seed money and keep that going. And as long as there's enough of us coming together with grassroots organizations that will stand up, the more of us that unite, and it's not about, well, I did this first, or I have this organization and it was my idea. No, we all need to come together, because it happens in numbers. And that's where change will start to happen. I've drafted a couple of vehicle bills for Illinois, because that's where my crime was out of, but also out of Oregon, because they're very big here on mandatory sentencing, juvenile life without parole, and things like that. Even though the Supreme Court says that, you can be rehabilitated as a juvenile. This isn't about a scared straight program. It's a preventative measure from ever letting them go there. And so I vowed in the next 5 years was to not only do those food trucks, but to continue with the seed money, to team up with other organizations, to become united, so that we are full force around, so that our voices will start to be heard, and that we're just not somebody that was like, wow, I have never heard of you before. No, you're going to hear about me. You're going to hear about me. And when I want people to say, like when they hear Marissa Matthews and my name, I want them to say, I know her, and you should too. I want them to say that, because I'm out here to help people change their lives, people's perspective on the way the judicial system is and how corrupt it is from start to finish, and how people are not given. I mean, like, our scales of justice are not blind. They're definitely biased in so many ways. And to stand on what our Constitution is, it angers me, because it's not what it really truly is. And we all know in the judicial system, you're going through trial and stuff, it's about who you know and who you blow. I mean, that somebody that has a public defender didn't get a proper handshake because we're just going to, like, they're going to be sold down the river as quick as anybody else. But if I have a paid lawyer, then chances are he knows the judge and I'm going to get a better deal. Like, it should not be that way, but it is. And so at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what kind of felony that you've been charged with, whether it was murder or you stole a candy bar in the third strike, you know, it doesn't matter. You're treated with the same treatment coming out of that gate, which is nobody's going to give you an opportunity, and that door is going to continue to slam in your face, and you need to figure out a way to cut a hole into it, not open it. You need to cut a hole into that door and walk through it.
Right. I mean, I hear it right there. I mean, just that simple. Those of y'all that tuned in, you can type any questions that you have. We get down to the end. We do a Q&A session. Any question that you'd like to ask Marissa, just type it in the chat. We'll bring it up and she'll answer it. You know, I'm telling you, she got some answers. We was talking about, okay, when you getting out of prison, okay, and then you get that mentor, right? You got that mentor. What would be
One more time, you just
I said, we got the you get out of prison, you get your mentor. All right. We was talking about one of the most important things that you really need to build when you get out, and that was a vision board. Why is it important to have a vision board getting out of prison?
Here's why you need a vision board coming out of prison. It's not cliche. It's not for the weak, like people will say, or I don't need to do that because I have my visions in my head. The minute that you create a vision board and you put those things on paper, it becomes tangible to you. You have to look at it. You have to manifest it into your life and you be like, I will be that. Nobody will stop me from being that. Tony Robbins.
Uh-oh.
I remember we're doing this on my phone. And to be able to manifest that, that's not your dream. That's your goal. That's not something I hope to get one day. That's something I will have one day. And by changing those words of affirmation to yourself, it's important. It's important to you, not anybody else. You only have to prove this to yourself. And when somebody says, yeah, I don't think that's a good idea, then you probably should really think about that twice, because chances are somebody that told you that at one point in time is the one that actually got you into this mess to begin with.
Right. So any final words, statements that you would like to, you know what I'm saying, tell those that's tuning in that maybe getting out of prison or got family member getting out of prison, word of encouragement, how they can get a hold of you, find you. Just, you know,
so they can find me on Facebook under Marissa Matthews. You can go to Balloons by Twisted Sisters and reach me on my business page there. In the next few weeks, where I will have a different business page for beating 70%, or the Fallen Felon is what it'll be, and how to beat recidivism. And you know, I would love to be able to tag your link on there so that we're collaborating here, and we're going to help people. And the more, like I said, the more that happens in numbers, come forward, because Kardell and I are here to help you guys through this process to be better. And, you know, I own my own house. I make $555,000 a year in my business. And I can hang my hat on that. I built a life completely opposite of what anybody could ever said about me. And that's what people need to start doing. So they can reach me there.
Did it coming out of prison? No excuses. No, I'm a convict. I'm a felon. I'm an inmate. None of that held you back. You got out and you went through a lot of things, you know. So the perseverance, you know, the determination, the dedication to stick to what you wanted to be and who you wanted to be, you know, played a big role. I really appreciate having you on. I really appreciate you sharing your story with the audience, with me. I'm looking forward to working with you. We building this reentry mentor support team. Like we was talking, we trying to make this global. We got some ideas that we're really trying to push, and we really going to make this huge. And I really appreciate you getting in touch with me, and we making this happen. So
also, we should reiterate for those that are even have family members that are doing that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You need to be their biggest support. And if they say, you know what, my mentor says that it's probably in my best interest, based on us doing an evaluation of their life coming out, it's probably best that you relocate somewhere else. Then you need to be that support system and watch them grow. And we promise that we will be the safety net that catches them. We will put them in line with the resources that need that. But if they're going to stay stagnant in their station of life, they're not going to go anywhere. And those people need to be the biggest support system for them at that point.
Exactly. And I'm glad you said that, because another thing we was talking about, what family members wonder what they can do while their loved ones are incarcerated. First thing that you can do, one of the things, remember we was talking about this, was getting the birth certificate and social security card.
Yes. You want to help them out, give them a chance out the gate. Then they need social security cards and birth certificates on record there, so that when they come out, the very first thing that they do within the 24 hours of being out and meeting with their agent is that they get their IDs lined up. And then that will help them into the workforce by saying, oh, I have this ID, or I can't, don't tell me it's not possible. I'll send you the money myself to get it, because if that's going to help you be responsible, I will invest that money into helping somebody get an ID to make sure that that's on the next track. And if somebody is going to make fun of you because you're only making minimum wage, it's a start somewhere. But at least I'll help you get into your own business, and you'll still be working while you're building your dream.
Yeah. And we was talking about how you can also, if this case someone don't know, they can get their birth certificate and their birth certificate and social security card while they're incarcerated and get it put into their file.
Yep, absolutely. One, their family members can fill out a form for them and have it mailed directly to the prison, and attention to whoever counselor that they have, even to the warden. And so I feel like it's something that you need to do. It's vital. It's one of those vital things that has to be lined up before you're released. And it's not something that should wait till the last minute, especially with COVID going on. Some places are backed up 6 to 8 weeks. Start now. If you know that somebody's getting out in 3 months, do it now. If you know somebody's getting out in a year, start now. It'll be sitting there for when they get out. And most importantly, if somebody's able to make sure that they have money on their books, or they can save up their money for the last 6 months of their incarceration. I know it's very difficult to not be able to get to that commissary and stuff, but it's important that you have a little bit of gate money when you get out, and that's just your own little bit of security. It's a little nugget, and watch you be able to turn $100 into $300. I'm not talking about gambling. I'm not talking doing illegal or throwing dice. I'm talking serious. You can turn around and make something of yourself. And that's what you want people to say. Like me, I can honestly say, like, I am proud of myself and the position that I'm in, because you can say whatever you want, but I'm still making more money than the people that were locking me up were.
Exactly. Well, thanks again. I'm glad now that you came on. I'm glad with everything that you shared. Once again, that I'm looking forward to partner up with you. We're doing this reentry, this mentor. We're gonna beat the 70%. We're gonna help all the people out that we can, and you gotta.
We'll make them all fallen felons. Won't we?
We're gonna make them all fallen felons. So you gotta want it. Once again, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
I really appreciate it. Thank you for everyone that tuned in. And until next time, I'll see you all on the reentry journey. You all have a great night.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, Kardell. I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks.